Now the automatic sorting system for all desired items is complete. Lastly, we set up a general storage area with the yellow storage chests. Only the items that we have not set up buffer chests for will be brought over here. Now let's reap the fruits of our labor. Let's set up some personal logistics requests so that we never have to manually scrounge around for base building materials. The logistics bots are gonna deliver me all the things, as well as get rid of all the things I don't want anymore, which they'll deliver right back to the correct buffer chests. Yes! It was quite a chore to set up, but as we're probably looking ahead to a long game still, it was well worth the effort. And with all of that logistics fiddling out of the way, it's finally time to continue working on the main boss. Not only to work towards getting science going again, but also many of the hardware in the manufacturing block require ingredients more advanced than green chips and iron gears, like engines, red chips, plastics, basically the whole series of intermediate products. So far we have set up buffers of the 6 basic materials of iron, copper, steel, coal, stone and bricks supplied from the furnace area. We have also set up all building materials and supplies in our manufacturing block, supplied by bots. Now it is time to set up all the intermediate products down here, supplied by the main boss. We already took care of the most basic intermediates of green circuits and iron gears, and a keen eye would also discover the lesser used copper wire and iron stick buffer chests. But why are we not just making everything in a manufacturing block like above? Well, the first reason we are making the intermediate products here on the boss is that they are usually required in high quantities, so each of them will need a lot of assemblers instead of just 1 or 2. The second reason is that, unlike the end products like the ones in the manufacturing block, the intermediate products can benefit from productivity modules for a small production bonus. Applying that small productivity bonus on every single step of the way, however, stacks exponentially and can work out to be a significant reduction in total cost on the end products. The productivity bonus does come with a small speed penalty, however, so to prevent us from needing even more assemblers, we have instead sprinkled some speed beacons in between the assemblers. This is a great combo, but those gains must be paid for by a great increase in power usage and an even greater increase in pollution output. And so be it. Instead of the environmentally friendly, power conserving, local approved way of going for clean air with full efficiency modules, we are going to go with the thick, widespread, long burning smog clouds of full speed and productivity modules, outputting 5 to 10 times more pollution, all in return for a very small decrease in resource demands. The locals may not like it, but I'm desperate enough to go through with it. We still control only a single ore patch of every resource. Anyway, we started off by adding engines, and electric engines. Now, electric engines usually are not among the first few products you'd see on the main boss, but here we are. Since they require the mechanical engines, we may as well place them next door, so we can skip putting engines on the boss altogether. Following that logic, we put the high-tech robot frames right next door to the electric engines. You may notice though that we've skipped some steps. We are missing a few ingredients like batteries, the electric engines themselves, which in turn require lubricant, and actually we are missing the whole oil industry. We have skipped so many steps that we've probably set a new long jump world record in the process. Now that we can no longer hide behind the term starter base, are we gonna fix that properly? No, at least not yet. We can kickstart the electric engine production with the lubricant from the old base, and we still have plenty of batteries to kickstart bot frames to make some more early robots. After barreling the old base's lubricant, we provide it to the electric engines via a sneaky backdoor loop insertion. Now, I'm sure there's a joke hiding in there somewhere, but I'll leave that as an exercise for the viewer. Anyway, one way or the other, it leads to the electric engines being produced. And after hand feeding some batteries to the robot frames, those also are being produced. In fact, the bot frames are immediately picked up and transported to the manufacturing block, where they'll be converted into more construction and logistics robots. Let's check how the nuclear reactor is doing. We switched to nuclear power about 8 hours ago and have been using what looks to the naked eyeball like less than 1/5 of the reactor's maximum capacity on average. Let's check. A 4-core reactor at normal consumption burns through 4 fuel cells every 200 seconds. Now 8 hours have passed, meaning normal fuel cell consumption would be 28,800 divided by 200 seconds multiplied by 4 fuel cells per time equals 576 consumed fuel cells. So if we are really 100% fuel efficient, we should have used up less than 1/5 of that, so less than 116 fuel cells. Let's check. We have used up 92 fuel cells in 8 hours instead of 576. Now that's some savings even Scrooge McDuck would be proud of. But now there's no more getting around it. We need a proper oil setup to continue. As we didn't secure a new oil source during our expansion, we are going to set up coal liquefaction first. And here are 12 beaconed refineries capable of absorbing 2 red belts of coal. Currently our coal mine produces barely half a red belt, but this setup is already built to handle future expansions. Each refinery needs 2 red inserters to keep up, and because heavy oil is required as an input, the output of heavy oil is routed around and directly passes and touches the inputs. This is enough to keep them going forever without backing up, but as I'm Dutch, I may as well go double Dutch and use a backup precaution. So I instructed the pump to only pump out heavy oil if there's at least 10k heavy oil in the tank. There. Yes, coal liquefaction is kinda annoying. Not only does it need one of its output as an input, additionally it requires steam. So we need to set up some boilers. I forgot the ratio, but these are entirely too many boilers, even for our beacon setup. But who cares, boilers are so incredibly cheap that just thinking about spending the effort to calculate the correct ratio already is more expensive than just overbuilding them. Next we need to connect the steam to the refineries. But why connect the steam to the refineries when you can just simply move the whole effing refinery to connect to the steam instead? Yes, why not? Thanks to our automatic sorting system we can just do these kind of things all day long now, without worrying where all those elements are going to end up. The whole deconstructed coal liquefaction plant will be neatly returned to their respective buffer chest every single time. Now we just need some heavy oil to prime the system. Not a lot, a stack of 10 barrels will do the job. Excellent! Since coal liquefaction barely produces petroleum gas though, we will need to set up a lot of oil cracking. First, heavy oil to light oil. As soon as the new heavy oil buffer tank hits 20k, it will send heavy oil to be cracked into light oil. And... excellent! Lastly, light oil to petroleum gas. A suspiciously similar setup will, once there's 20k light oil in this buffer tank, send light oil to be cracked into petroleum gas. Excellent! And with those 3 steps, our full, future-proof cold liquefaction plant is now complete. So you might wonder, are these the perfect ratios? No, these are not the so-called correct ratios. The cracking facilities are slightly overbuilt in order for the setup to look more awesome. Instead of worrying about the ratios, we've designed the setup to be able to consume 2 full red belts of coal instead. I have said it before and I'll say it again. For general playthroughs, correct ratios are severely overrated. Now, as this coal mine is terribly small, we set up a similar buffer chest system like in the old starter base. This will keep the miners active during low times so that the stored coal can better supply the coal liquefaction refinery for short bursts of peak production. And here is a shot of our base, which has been steadily and ever more firmly annoying biters for 328 days now. So we are not fully done with the oil stuff just yet. Now comes the hard part. Balancing and correctly prioritizing between the regular oil refining and the coal liquefaction. Actually, as the refinery outputs plus the whole cracking setup including buffer tank system is the same, we can just copy paste the coal liquefaction plant to use as a template for setting up regular oil refining. Since we stopped researching, we've stored up a sizable amount of oil again. We change up the oil buffer tank system a bit to guarantee 150k oil to the flamethrowers, which is enough to keep 15 flamethrowers continuously firing for a full hour by the way, and we divert any surplus oil to be refined by the oil refineries. It is time to switch on the oil refineries. And then first we connect the petroleum gas output to the petroleum buffer tank. Now, as explained before, our single oil source has reached its minimum infinite oil production state. So naturally we want to consume our free oil before turning our very limited coal supply into oil. So we pump the petroleum gas from the infinite oil source into the buffer tank without restriction, while coal liquefaction only chips in if the petroleum buffer level drops below 20k. Unfortunately, that will be the case most of the time though, as our speed moduled infinite oil source produces barely enough for just one of our moduled refineries. Now, this is the last complicated bit, I promise. We need to make one more adaptation to prevent the system from possibly clogging up. Since we are prioritizing petroleum gas consumption from the infinite oil source, it is possible the petroleum gas tank from the coal liquefaction plant will fill up with unused petroleum gas and clog up the coal liquefaction plant, preventing it from producing additional heavy and light oil which we might need. So we disable the cracking to petroleum gas if the single buffer tank has just 5k gas in it, which will ensure there's at least 20k of space for the little bit of petroleum gas produced by the coal liquefaction process itself. And just in case our heavy and light oil demand is going to be so high that coal liquefaction itself manages to fill the single petroleum gas buffer tank to 20k, we override the free oil priority to the big petroleum gas buffer and enable a secondary pump to pump away any petroleum gas above 20k. Theoretically, it's now near impossible for the whole system to clog up unless we're not using any petroleum gas in the whole base while still somehow requiring heaps of heavy and light oil. This could theoretically happen in rare cases when we are not researching technologies while mass producing rocket fuel or blue belts. So to prevent even that unlikely scenario from happening, we make sure to keep 30k of space in the 6 petroleum gas buffer tanks, which can only be filled by the petroleum gas overflow valve from the coal liquefaction. This makes sure that even when no petroleum gas is being consumed at all, the coal liquefaction plant is still able to produce hundreds of thousands of heavy or light oil before the system clogs up. Okay, Factorio oil masterclass dismissed. Now to do something with our oil. First we make a proper lubricant setup, so we can do away with the backdoor loop entry. Lastly, we connect the light and heavy oil outputs from the free infinite oil source, ensuring products like lubricant and rocket fuel will try to consume the free oil first as well. We don't need an elaborate pump system for this, because an excess of heavy and light oil can always be cracked down further to petroleum gas. Petroleum gas, however, is the end product, and the only way to get rid of it is to consume it, which is why we need a little bit of pump magic for that. But that's all of the oil stuff done for now. Back to working on the main bus. But first, let's see the state of affairs in the Foreign Relations Department and do a full wall scout run. Here's a new nest with a bunch of big worms nearby, but not nearby enough to shoot us. Compare it to this old settlement defended by only small and medium worms. We exactly miss a biter attack, but manage to catch the robots trying to repair each other from the fire damage. We greet our friend Little Johnny. And oh my, these guys have literally settled within centi-inches of our flamethrowers range, haven't they? Well, the nearby worm is of the medium variant, and the big worm is too far out, so we'll leave them be. If we clear this nest, the next settlement will soon replace them anyway, giving new chances to spawn annoying big worms in their attack without retaliation sweet spot. Biter evolution is just 3% away from behemoths now though, and we're still nautical kilomiles away from having the required technologies to deal with them. Perhaps we should have gone with the efficiency module approach, but even more perhaps we should probably hurry up a little.